Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So, first of all, I just want to start off with the fact that you've noticed progress this week with your measurements and seeing physical progress. How does that feel?
Yeah, thank you. Actually, it feels good because it feels like when you're doing something for a long period of time, if you don't have those little wins, it can kind of get discouraging. But when you see something, it just is motivating to keep going. So it's good.
Mm,
Yeah. And
and validating too.
validating, and when other people notice it, it's like, so my mom noticing was a big deal.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
So.
Wow. What did she say?
Well, at first she just said yes, like that she noticed. But then I said thank you. And she was like, why? You're the one doing the hard work. I'm like, yeah, well, but it's nice that other people notice and you're not like, doing a lot of hard work and then feeling like it's not making a difference. So it was, I feel different, but it's nice to see difference. So
Mm. And considering like that you struggled with it for a long time previously too, and not seeing that physical progress, it's kind of like, oh, it's not super extreme or restrictive, and you're actually eating more than what you've
uh,
ever eaten.
in my
So,
entire life. More food than I've ever consumed. Which is so scary, but it's so interesting because even when I wasn't seeing a loss, I was like, it's crazy that I'm eating so much food and I'm not gaining weight. It wasn't like my clothes were getting tighter. So
yep.
it was very interesting for that, like, shift a little bit to just notice it. And then there have been plenty of nights where I'm like, oh my gosh, I still have to eat. Like, I still have 400 calories left that I have to eat. What am I going to eat? So yeah, it's been kind of crazy. I think it's just a shift in like what I'm eating, and paying attention to the protein has been the biggest change for me. I think the protein has actually helped me physically feel better. So it was
Mm,
something I was missing that I just didn't like really know that I was missing it. So I was eating less calories, but I wasn't eating as much protein.
mm, yeah. And that can obviously affect a lot of things with your energy, and then obviously how you store muscle and all of those things too. But it's so cool to hear your story just because I know it is scary to take that first step, honestly. Especially in the unknown of like, is this just going to be another diet program
Yeah,
or something from an influencer on the internet? It's like you never know what you're going to get on
that's
Instagram.
true.
So, yeah. So, I wanted to know, or for you to share a little bit about where you were at before joining Rise. What were you struggling with the most? What patterns were you repeating? Just where were you at?
So I think like backstory, like obviously, but just, for other people to know, I have a background with personal training. I have a background in the health and fitness industry. Um, Absolutely not this, like going the other extreme with like extreme dieting and stuff like that. So, um,
Sure.
but when I had gotten injured a few years ago, I my world shifted, and what was keeping me healthy, my workouts and things like that, I just stopped. And so just totally, I mean, I couldn't even walk for 5 months, so it was hard even just getting back into walking and all of that. And then I just was so like gripped by like I physically can't do what I used to do, and so I feel like I just gave up, to be honest. And I was like, whoa, I was super restrictive in my diet when I was working out, and I was eating less than 1,200 calories a day. And just I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so thin and I was so like in my mind so fit. But the minute that I stopped was like I just started putting on weight and putting on weight and putting on weight. And then the more weight that I put on, the less I was just like, I just can't do it. It seemed like too big of a task, too hard of something to conquer. Like I just felt so far behind that, and years have gone by and I'm getting older and I'm like, it's just too hard. Like I can't do
Mm,
it. So
wow. And that's a
yeah.
low place to be, especially with someone who has a background in just sports, athletics, all of that, someone who sees himself as fit, your whole life pretty much. And so what was the shift for you in your mind where you were like, okay, it's time to make a change. I need to take this leap. What was that shift in your head?
Um, so I think I think a good way to approach this would be that I have always looked at myself separate from maybe my surroundings. So like
Mm,
I didn't want like I loved coaching, I loved teaching and PE and all the things, but I always said like I would never be a fat PE teacher. Like if I get that, I will quit. Because I just had in my head like it just the outward appearance just meant so much. Like I would never, as much knowledge as I have about personal training, I would never want to train somebody because you don't want to go to somebody. It's like going to a hairdresser who has messy hair or like, doesn't take it like you're like, oh, I don't know if I want that person doing my hair. And so I just think that played such a role in how I saw myself, and the shift happened was just conversations between me and my daughter, and she's a teenager, and hearing her like how she was talking about herself, and um seeing her struggle with her appearance and feeling out of shape. And I think it just was like came to a head because it was one thing of me feeling that way, but
mm,
then knowing that I am impacting her life and I'm influencing her, and kids do what they see you do, not what you tell them to do. And that's just so that was my biggest like I have to do something about it because she's growing up and I'm not being a good example.
mm. Oof, that's convicting. It's
Yeah.
so convicting.
Yes.
But it's also like it's also encouraging and it gives you that push because your desire is from the Lord of, hey, I need you to show up in this way, not just for you, but for your family, for your businesses, for the people that you're leading, because you have so many layers of your life where you are a strong leader. You have all of those qualities. And I think for you, it was kind of like the outside wasn't matching what's in the inside, who
Yeah.
God created you to be. Yeah, just like you said, like you don't want to work with a hairdresser that has messy hair or her highlights are all messed up, and it's like,
Yeah.
so now you're in a position where, and I'll hand the floor to you, but where you have found some shifts and you have been improving a lot. Like you're eating way more. It was hilarious. Like our
Good.
first call, our first call, I remember I think you looked over the calories or something and you were just like, I don't know if this is gonna happen.
Like
I don't
it
know if you
gave me a
remember.
stomach ache. It gave me a stomach ache to see how many calories. And I was like, that's like almost that's almost double what I used to eat. So it's pretty
Yeah,
crazy. It's a big
that is so
it's scary, but sometimes you have to do scary things to move forward. When we avoid
totally.
those scary things and we're looking for comfort, that's what gets us where that's why I was where I was, because I was doing the more comfortable things versus the things that were hard and scary.
Mm. That's a word in itself too. Like cha staying where you're comfortable is only going to keep you where you're comfortable. And I think you realize that. And the thing with you though is that you already knew what to do. And so with you joining Rise, what have you learned so far? Like what do you feel like you've grown the most into? and habits that you've developed that you feel like has like kind of turned on the light bulb for you?
I would say there's so much more freedom in food, and I think part of my struggle was feeling like, oh, I was going to need to diet. And then when you diet and you stop that diet, then you're back where you started from, and it's like this yo-yo thing. And so my accountability when I was training people is that going back to not wanting to be like overweight because I was training people, it kept me very like strict in what I was doing. But not having
Mhm.
them, like I don't have accountability to like stay focused. And here I feel like there's this layer of freedom. And I know I shared it a little bit with you yesterday, was that it was the first time I realized I didn't even know what it felt like to be full. And that to me, like learning that my body does give me cues is so crazy to me. I'm like, oh, okay, like these are the things that I needed that I didn't know that I needed. And I think that's like one thing about this program is sometimes you don't know what you need until it's in front of you and you see the changes that start happening. Because I could tell you when I'm hungry, but I didn't know like to listen to my body for like what it needed, the protein that it needed, the calories it needed. I didn't know to listen to it, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think other habits are just getting back into the routine of things like working out and drinking water and that kind of stuff. But that was all stuff that I've done before. I think the calories um, and listening to my body is probably the biggest. And taking time to rest on Saturday, I really did. I rested on Saturday, and that was like a big win for me because that's not something I do very often. So,
Oh, I know.
at all. Like at all. So,
At all. You're always
yeah.
on the go.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's huge. Like knowing that you can take a break and it's not going to ruin everything. And
Mhm.
like your progress isn't going to go down the drain. And even this week, I don't know if you've watched your check in yet, but I told
I
you to take
didn't
a
know.
deload week. Okay. Take a deload week because when you're in a high stress state, you want to manage that well. And so I'm going to have you take it down a notch. You'll see in your check in. But,
Okay.
anyways, things like that. Like, what do you think? I guess, well, phrasing it in this way, comparing where you were at before to where you're at now, can you show kind of the comparison of this is what I was struggling with and this is what I've overcome? Like, could you lay out the map of that or just show the comparison?
In general or like a specific? You want a specific example? Because I can give you a
Yeah,
specific.
I guess.
Even just
Yeah. No,
like stress in general. Um, so like my way of coping with things is to either go, 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 or till I crash or my body crashes in the sense that like I get sick or something like that. Um, and I think because this is so like you go through the journals, they're talking about mindfulness, you want us paying attention to how we feel, you're asking us questions about like stress, which that is not a question that I think I in your normal day-to-day life people don't normally say how's your stress, like how's your, and I think I've been paying more attention to it. So when things have happened, even though they've been like there have been times that it's been super scary, I feel like I have this ability to kind of stand outside of myself and say this is happening and this is what I need to do. Whereas before, even just 6 months ago, I think my body physically would shut down. It's like then I would get sick, or then I'm like feeling depressed or feeling like I just don't want to do anything, or I was just going to something that was not healthy or not good for me to try and make myself feel better versus okay, I don't feel right or something is wrong or stressful. So what is it that I need to do? How can I manage that? And the walking has helped me a lot. Um, and then I shared that I have been doing a little bit of yoga, not as much as probably I need to do, but I have been doing a little bit of that. And just like reminding myself to breathe has been like this huge, like, let me feel my own self, my body. Like, where am I? What is it that I need? And being in that space and being present has kind of been a game changer, I think, for me. I have definitely not hit the like where I want to be. I'm not like 100%, but I can at least see that I'm moving forward, and that's a big deal.
Hmm. Especially for you, just knowing your lifestyle and all of the things that you have to balance in your life. It seems like the biggest thing for you is the awareness and becoming aware of your body, what it needs, the hunger cues. And it's not like you've had to sacrifice a lot. Well, yes, we make sacrifices to make this happen, right? Like you're putting in a lot of work, but more so in the sense of we're not restricting. We're not saying you can or can't do this. Um, like for you, it sounds like it's a lifestyle shift.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle shift, and it's also, like you said, just being aware of where I am physically and being okay with that. Because if I'm
Mm,
being honest, taking pictures is hard, right? You take pictures and you're gonna find the things that you're like, I don't like this, and this isn't changing, and I want this to be different. Or um, you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, man, I wish my eyebrows looked better, or whatever, like whatever the thing is. And I think for me, I'm trying to be happy. Like when I look in the mirror, like I feel physically better. So I can be happier in the body that I'm in. And knowing that like it is a process and like I can reach those goals. Like I was able to do push-ups years ago, right? Like they were nothing to me. Now they're hard. But knowing that like I can get there and then being able to do 5 in a row or 10 in a row, I'm like, okay, I see the progress or I see those changes. And that to me is like being in myself and being in the moment and saying, hey, there's progress. I'm better than I was yesterday. That's like that's priceless, because being better than you were yesterday is like you're saying yes to yourself. You're moving forward and saying, yes, I want to be healthy. Yes, these are the things that I want. And sometimes that does mean sacrifice, like you said, but saying yes to the things that are unhealthy means you're saying no to the health. So you have to figure out what it is that you want and say yes to the things that you want, even when you don't feel like it.
mm. Pop off, coach.
Yeah, I
For
try.
real.
That's funny.
So that brings me to like with saying yes into investing in your health. If someone were watching this video and they were kind of on the fence of investing in their health, even if it's not necessarily my program, but just taking the next step in general, but they have fears, of like, what if this doesn't work for me? Or, whatever fears could come up. What would you say to that person who's on the fence?
Mm. It's funny because my daughter and I were talking recently about being afraid, and just like the opposite of that is love. And so saying yes to a program like this or moving forward in a health journey is literally loving yourself. And for me, I think that's what makes the fear go away, is saying like you're
Mm,
worth it. Like I was created for more than where I was at. And loving myself and loving my family enough to say, this is what I want to do. I want to take care of myself. You hear all the time people who say they want to be there for their family or they want to, but I think Um, and this is just me because, I'm a Christian and I love God and I feel like he's created me with a purpose. And so if I can't complete that without um, being healthy, then I'm saying no to something that he made me for. And the best way to show him that I love him is to love myself enough to get healthy. I know I don't know, that was a little like spaghetti, but it was kind of all over the place. But I think it's just the opposite of fear of being afraid is love. So yeah, so loving yourself enough to say yes to a program or starting a journey of health is key.
Mm. What helped you overcome the fear? Was it that thought process of saying like, I can choose fear, I can choose love?
Um, I think it was like I said, it was definitely the love of for Kayla, like for my daughter, like saying, like, I love her so much and I want her to have a healthy mom. And there's things that she asks me to do that I want to be able to do. And I think I started there and then it's kind of like shifted into like, okay, this is more than just her. It has become like, this is who I am. This is who God created me to be. And I want to be the best version of who he made me to be. And so I think realizing that things are scary, like, I mean, there's tons of scary things, right? Like we can choose anything in life can be scary, especially if you
Yep.
haven't done it before, or if it's
Mhm.
something outside of, like we said, your comfort zone. Anything can be scary, but knowing that like your mindset really does determine where you go, I think is huge because if you can overcome your self-talk and like telling yourself that you can't do it, I think then that will open up a door for you to keep walking forward and it won't be like something that happens overnight, but it'll be something that will happen.
Mm. Yeah, this was good. Thank you for sharing all of your
Oh,
knowledge and wisdom and encouragement, because I know there's a ton of people out there that need to hear your story. So, yeah, this
thank you
was
for
so
asking
good.
good questions. Yeah. I
Yeah.
I I'm definitely thankful that, that we met, that I saw you on Instagram. I'm thankful that you reached out and I definitely think community is a big part of any journey because if you do something solo, um, it's easier to quit. So
Mm,
being in community is key because we can lift each other up. And when somebody doesn't feel like they can handle it, then we're there to encourage them. And so that's important. And you created that, like your program, that is a huge part of your program. So
mm.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. It wouldn't be the same without you, genuinely,
Oh,
honestly.
thank you.
Every single one of you. Love you so much. Yeah, it's a joy. And honestly, the group chat and all the calls, like sometimes it's unhinged and we don't know what we're talking about and we're just kind of throwing stuff at the wall. But that's what friendship and community is. Just being ourselves and
Yeah.
having people to support us through it. So awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. Genuinely.
Yeah.
Are you going to be on the call tonight?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I am. And
Well,
I'll
thank you.
listen. Yeah, I'll listen to your feedback before the call. I'm kind of nervous.
Perfect.
I was very, very honest. I mean, not that I haven't been honest with you before, but I feel like I was like, I thought to myself because this week was so hard, I was like, I could totally just pretend, or I can like really like tell her where I'm at. And
I'm
yeah,
proud of you for doing that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's huge. I honestly kind of noticed that too, and I was like, okay, we're being real. you know,
Mhm.
because it's like I can only help you to the capacity that you fill me in. And if we put on a mask and say, "Oh, everything's fine,"
Yep.
even though it's like the dog meme where it's like the building is burning behind him, and he's just like, "This is fine." You
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about?
Hmm. Yep.
Like
Yeah.
that.
That's kind of how I felt. Well, it was interesting that you switched the call last week from Monday to Wednesday because Wednesday was like like my hardest day. And so
Mm,
it was so interesting because I was thinking about you and just everything, and literally sitting in a meeting started having a panic attack. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But it was so good because everything was fresh on my mind. So I was like, I have to breathe.
yeah.
So it was like the timing of it was, but not that anyone should have a panic attack, but I'm just saying, like the timing of like having having that meeting and then being able to calm down and like breathe was
Mm,
good. So anyway,
mm. See,
but I
the Lord knows what he's doing, man. Like he knows everybody's timeline and everything. So that's so sweet to hear. But yeah,
yeah.
watch the feedback because yeah, you need it. Basically what I have to
Okay.
say.
Okay.
It's good
That
though.
sounds good.
It's good. And it'll be what you need, honestly. Like I said, you'll hear
Okay.
me talking about doing a deload week. And I go into detail in the video on what that means, but it'll help a
Okay.
lot with managing your stress because you really need that right now. Um, and obviously message me if you have questions about that, but we can plan that. So
Okay.
cool.
Sounds good.
Well, I will see you on the call soon.
Okay. Sounds good. All right.
Okay, I'll talk to you
Bye.
soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.